This is the Betfred Boxing Show with myself, Dom McGuinness, alongside, as ever, Anthony Million Dollar Crawler. Now, Anthony, we're going to preview all the action coming up. We're going to look back to the weekend we've just had, but we are going to start, because I know you've had a busy few days.
Yes.
You were in a bubble last week as well in Sheffield, bubble. Because the Fight Zone app was launched. It was the first fight in Sheffield, and you had a fighter on there, James Moorcroft, who went in there and did the business. Now, again, from your point of view, being back in a bubble, it was another experience of that kind of thing. I know you've been in the bubbles before.
Yeah.
But Fight Zone, Sheffield, outdoor arena, a crowd.
Yes.
James getting the fight and doing the business. I mean, talk us through your experience of the whole thing.
It was a very sort of unique experience. I've been in the bubble before. That like I say, I've been around a few bubbles, but what it was on the night, and I think you was there yourself, and fair play to the Fight Zone, then yourselves and the whole team. It was like a real sort of unique setup. The fighters are warming up in tents. We was one of the lucky ones that had a bit of heating in our tent as well. So James was a little bit spoiled. But like the rain, it was a cold night. And I think, for the launch of it, the weather couldn't have been any more against, the show. But in the end, we got there. Like I say, I was really happy with James's performance. It was a fight that seems expected to win and win well, but he boxed very well. His opponent was very complimentary of him, and he's been in with some very good lads. We saw a bit of everything on that show. We saw, again, the women's side of it. Katie Ela, she had a great debut. And I thought the English title fight was an absolute cracker. I always knew it was going to be between Myron Mills and Lucas Ballingal. Great fight. Probably could have gone either way. And it's one, like I say, I'll watch back.
Yeah, it was incredible, really. The rain and the wind couldn't have been crueler. But luckily, it held off, and all the fights went ahead, and there were some cracking battles as well. As you say, the headline event was brilliant. But just being at an event like that and seeing the crowds again, and each fighter had a real support there, and everybody stayed till the end. It was a real event, and
it was.
And again, production-wise, it all came through really well on Fight Zone, I thought. So again, it's just good to have those Friday fight nights back.
A lot of people told me just how well it ran and the quality of it. So that's brilliant to hear. And I say, hope for now it goes forward, keeps building and building, back out again this Friday with the fight. So I'm back there myself the week after with one of my fighters, where we see Salford's Mark Leach, fight Thomas December. That's another great trade fight.
It is,
But like I said, the weather couldn't have been any cooler, but I couldn't help but think of get a little bit of good weather, the Great British weather. You'll be people sat down there, they'll be having a drink, there'll be an even better atmosphere. And I think it was a success.
Let's face it, there were plenty of happy, smiling faces
There
was
enough
people enjoying themselves. But a good night. Now, of course, someone who had a fantastic night, not a good night or a great night, was Josh Taylor over the weekend. Wow. And again, to win all the belts, only the fifth person to do that, become properly undisputed. Going to Vegas and doing the business against Jose Ramirez. I mean, a lot's been said about him, and comparing him to Ken Buchanan, of course, who was undisputed from Scotland. So there's obvious parallels, and he's a mentor of Josh as well.
Yeah.
How good was that?
Oh, it was fantastic. It was absolutely brilliant, and I think now you're finally seeing some of the respect put on Josh's name that should have been a long time ago. The quality of opposition. There's a crazy stat that's gone around, like his last 5 opponents, like 100 and odd fight. There's one loss between them. And that was Victor Postel against Terence Crawford.
Prograis, Baranchik.
Postel, Baranchik. Ryan Martin, he was an undefeated prospect at the time. We'd expect big things of. He's just been matched very tough, but he was good enough. He was good enough to do it, and now he's got all the marbles. And again, listen, Ramirez again, it was a great win. It was a great win. Like, I fancied Josh to do it on points, but still, it was still a tough ask, and I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about it. But there's a little bit of controversy about the scorecards, which I thought was a little bit out. But all in all, they give it the right man, and Scotland, the whole of the UK should be very proud of Josh Taylor.
I suppose the thing now is what is next. We never give anyone time to breathe or enjoy anything, do we? Because again, once a big fight like that, and we're thinking, right, what's next? So he's literally still nursing his bruises, but we want to know what's happening. So Terence Crawford is one that, is that something that he looks at now to step up and do that? Does he stay where he is and let others come up to him like Teofimo Lopez?
Yeah.
Does he face? I mean, what's the easiest fight to make? Maybe because he wants to fight in Edinburgh. Is the fella that's been waiting for him, Jack Catterall, who stepped aside, the WBO mandatory, stepped aside
I think that has to happen if Josh is toured onto all the belts, then I think that has to happen. Both with the same management company, so it would be, you'd think, easy to make. So Josh certainly deserves an homecoming. I know Jack will have other ways of describing that, but he certainly deserves his shot. So I hope that he gets it. He's waited around a long time. Like I say, he allowed this fight to happen by stepping aside. But Jack aside, you mentioned Terence Crawford. Wow, again, you'd think that'd be an easier fight to make, just like the Teofimo Lopez one. I mean, me personally, I'd love to see the Teofimo Lopez one. I told you I met him out in December, out in Texas in December, and an absolutely huge lightweight. I think it'd be a big 140. Honestly, I really do, as Josh is. I think that's a great fight. I'd love to see that. But I think, first of all, what looks very likely is seeing Josh Taylor versus Jack Catterall somewhere in Edinburgh, whether it's the Castle, whether it's Hibs, football ground, whichever it be, deserves that big homecoming.
But I think people are thinking, well, that's an easy fight to make, and that's probably the easiest fight for Josh. But Jack has got huge ambition, and again, Jack, he will be thinking, just let me in there. Let everyone talk about Josh.
The pressure's going to be off him. All the pressure's going to be off Jack. Good counter puncher, heavy hands. It would. He'd love that. He'd love the chance to fight the undisputed, to fight the number one on the planet. And like I say, Josh seems very confident that's going to be the next one. But after that, if he comes through, of course, Jack will have other plans. Those two names we mentioned, whether it be up at 147 with Terence Crawford or Teofimo Lopez, who comes through Kambosos, moves up, which you think the move up is inevitable. It's going to happen sometime soon. That'd be a great fight.
Well, one fella that did move around super lightweight and also welterweight is a world champion in his own right as well, Paulie Malignaggi. And producer Josh has been busy. He caught up with Paulie and asked him all sorts of things. And of course, they spoke about Josh in there as well.
Had a great weekend of boxing last weekend, Paulie. Josh Taylor defeating Jose Ramirez. What did you make of that performance from Josh Taylor, first of all?
I think Josh Taylor is possibly the UK's best fighter right now. Really, really impressive, and the run of form that he's had is really even extra impressive. I mean, he's taken the O of three very, very good fighters: Baranchuk, Prograis, and now Ramirez. Won the World Boxing Super Series. Now has unified the 140-pound championship. Really, I think he's the second 140-pounder to unify all four belts. Recently, Terence Crawford had done it as well. But if I've got to make comparisons, I think Josh Taylor had a more difficult run towards unifying the 140-pound title and was still able to do it. So I think it's not out of context. I think it's not out of what's the word I'm looking for? It wouldn't be crazy to name Taylor in the same conversation as Crawford right now. I think he's that good. But I have to say, shame on the UK networks for not televising this fight. That is a disgrace. That is an absolute and utter disgrace that you have a fighter this good, because to go to say the British boxing has been on a great run of form for, I'd say, probably the past decade, really, really, really good, maybe even a little longer. To say Josh Taylor is the best British fighter right now, I don't think is crazy. That's not a disrespect to the rest of the British fighters who are out there who are also very good, like a Tyson Fury or anything, but I mean, Taylor is unbelievable. To me, he's the best Scottish fighter ever, and he's clearly the best of the UK fighters right now. With knowing that the UK has a very good talent base, no less, that says a lot. So for the UK TV networks to not televise this fight, of all fights, this fight, the unification, is an absolute and utter disgrace, and the guy should never be disrespected like this. It's an absolute disrespect to a quality champion.
No, spot on there. And hopefully on the back of that, it's a shame it wasn't broadcast more widely, but hopefully on the back of that now people have stood up and realized we have got such a great fighter on our hands.
Yeah, but nonetheless, this was his crowning achievement, because it's not crazy to say he may fight Crawford and he may lose to Crawford. Now what happens? Now you're going to televise that fight, but people are never going to not going to televise his crowning achievement. But then he loses to Crawford, because he might lose to Crawford. He may beat Crawford. I'm not saying he wins or loses the fight to Crawford. I probably favor Crawford slightly at this moment, but I wouldn't be shocked if Taylor won it. Nonetheless, you go and televise the Crawford fight, but you didn't televise this fight. What if he loses the Crawford fight? The perception of people is still going to be different because they didn't see the crowning achievement, and he beat Jose Ramirez, who is a really, really quality, exceptional fighter himself. And it's the third exceptional fighter he's beaten in a row. He beat Prograis. He beat Baranchyk. I mean, he took the undefeated records of all three. I don't know. I was really disgusted to see that, to find that out. I thought an exceptional performance. Two very highly skilled fight fought by both guys. Jose Ramirez does not lose any luster, in my opinion. A terrific fighter, really pushed the envelope and brought the best out of Josh Taylor and forced Taylor to really make the adjustments. Because I thought early on Ramirez's pace was going to start to overcome Taylor, but then Taylor made the little subtle adjustments and in the distance in finding his proper range to really do the damage to Ramirez. And once he did that, I think it created enough doubt in Ramirez that the pressure now was a little bit less because Ramirez had a little bit more thinking to do. And once the pace was just slowed enough, Taylor could really start to dominate with his speed and his control of distance. But a very well fought fight between both two of the world's best fighters.
No, definitely. And you know your boxing, Paulie. In terms of a British fighter going abroad, we've had some great British fighters going abroad. Like you mentioned, Tyson Fury, he's been there against Wilder and beat him. We went over to Germany and beat Klitschko, and we've had many. Where would you put that Taylor victory up there as a British fighter abroad going and doing what he did?
I think it's a terrific performance. I don't always necessarily think going abroad to the U.S. it counts like going abroad to other places because American promoters tend to sign foreign fighters. It's the country that does this the most. Actually, most promoters from other countries tend to sign their own nationality and market them in that way. You're starting to see that a little bit more of a change with Matchroom signing a lot of different guys, but they've also got contracts in different countries. But for the most part, the U.S. was always kind of the breadbasket of boxing, where everybody would just show up here and get big TV contracts with big promoters. So I don't necessarily think coming to the U.S. is winning abroad, but in this case, you get a special recognition because it is tough to fight a Mexican fighter in the U.S. because Mexican fans are quite popular here in the U.S. So it is still a tough crowd. I know that Josh Taylor was not able to have a lot of his family here because of the COVID restrictions. So it still does count as a very good victory abroad for those reasons. Nonetheless, I don't think anything beats Tyson Fury going to Germany and beating Klitschko, because that's legitimately a fight winning abroad and going up against everything, you know. So I think the best win abroad for a British fighter probably goes to Tyson Fury over Klitschko, but nonetheless, Josh Taylor has done quite a job, and he's done it consistently. And this is the latest example of his nerves of steel, ice in his veins, world-class skill, world-class poise, and world-class execution of a game plan. Really, credit to Ben Davison as well, his trainer, who at such a young age has really been in the corner of some phenomenal fighters already. I mean, this guy was and in some pressure-filled fights too. He was in Tyson Fury's corner when he fought with Deontay Wilder the first time. That was kind of the new coming out party for Fury after he'd come back from all the problems, and I felt like they handled that very well. And then being in the corner here of Josh Taylor. So credit to Ben Davison as well. Really a world-class result by a world-class team.
Paulie Malignaggi there, and we're going to hear a bit more from Paulie in a bit when he assesses the heavyweight scene. But just talking there about Ben Davison and the impact that he's had, and the fact that for such a young fella, he's been in and around some big victories already.
Yes, he has. And I see it this weekend. He's in the corner for another huge fight, assisting Devin Haney's father in his, which I'm sure we're going to talk about, his fight with Jorge Linares. But yeah, Ben's doing fantastic as a coach, and like I say, such a young age, he's becoming known as one of the most well-respected coaches, not just in the UK but around the world.
Yep, and we will look at the Haney-Linares fight in a bit more detail in a minute. But just before we move on, there was another night of action, obviously, in Coventry. Yes. Sam Eggington was headlining, and he got the job done against Carlos Molina. And against Sam, he's just one of them lads, you just want him to do well every time he takes the ring. He's
had some tough nights. And again, he seems this, you would think sort of the last sort of, what would you say, I'd say an Indian summer is great, but he's only young. He's only young, he's been around for so long time. And some of the battles he's been in, but then it seems improving in him again. Listen, is Molina the fighter he was when he was world champion? No, but he's still capable. And I thought it was a good performance from Sam. And now, I know he went up to middleweight for that. Sam, you always want to see Sam do well, but I think he'll drop down to light middle. There's some big fights out there for him. Listen, you've got to remember the fight with him and Cheeseman. He thought he'd done enough. Cheeseman coming off a fantastic win against Jay Metcalf. There's some big fights left for Sam Eggington, and one thing we know about him, he always brings excitement.
That wouldn't be a bad one to see again, obviously.
We'd like to see it again, for sure.
Yeah, the thing with him, the brilliant thing, I think, he's never let the defeats define him. And,
No.
you know, this is a guy that started off with no ambition, thought, I'll just be a journeyman.
And he was just a bit too good to be a journeyman.
Too good.
Well,
and look
good,
what's
but
happened. Fantastic story. And again, it's great that boxing has those stories. But also on that night in action, a couple of Irish fighters, very heralded. You know, the McKenna boys we know all about. And Steve McKenna in great action. Brett McGinty with the Hattons. Again, to keep an eye on them, I think is essential, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think one thing about McKenna is, when we're about exciting, he comes where he comes out and that bell goes, and it's like his opponent stole something off him. He sets about them. And listen, I think certainly as he goes through the levels, he's going to have to be a little bit more, you know, defensive minded. But no, he certainly looks like he can punch, certainly. Brett McGinty, another win for him. On the undercard track, I think Casey Benjamin had a good win against Martin Harkin. Yeah. There was some, like you say, there's some very good performances.
And Harkin beat your man James Moorcroft.
He did. So that's a fight we would absolutely love the rematch now. But heavy-handed, he went the distance with McKinson, so it was a great win for Benjamin. But yes, I like to say, I know James, he had a keen eye on that. Like I say, I believe since we worked together, he's made massive improvements.
That was on TV, of course, that night of action, Sam Eggington. Just a quick word, Josh Taylor.
I know
Josh Taylor, again, it was on Fight TV, but that wasn't on terrestrial TV. No. It wasn't on one of the more obvious digital platforms, Sky platforms or whatever, BT. How are we not seeing a fight like that?
I think it's disgraceful. Do you know, I think one of the very best fighters we've seen out of the UK in recent times, the best fighter on the planet at his weight, to not broadcast that fight for all the marbles, I think it's I think it's a disgrace, and he didn't get the coverage that he deserved. I thought he was really poor.
Well, hopefully he does, but it's in Edinburgh or whatever. But he, again, he is the champ, and hopefully he gets all the attention he needs. As it is, two fellas that have had plenty of attention, and the heavyweight scene that we've been talking about for I'd say about 53 years now. This fight,
coming up
Fury
to
Joshua, and it's not happening now. It's dead, and we kind of knew that a week ago.
Yeah, we did.
And we don't want to keep talking about it because it's just been boring, hasn't it, for a while? But now it looks like they're going to go down their different routes. Obviously, with Fury's fighting Wilder again for the third time, July the 24th. That's done. It looks like Joshua and Usyk may well have a dance. So whether we ever see Fury Joshua now,
we don't know. It might have come from. Listen, Joshua and Usyk. That's obviously a very dangerous fight. France
they're
and
both
Joshua.
dangerous fights now.
And
because you can't rule out Wilder now.
No, of course, just because of what happened last time out. Listen, I'm excited about Tyson. I always want to see the big man fight, but I'm excited about him and Wilder. Not really after the last fight. Joshua and Usyk though is a total different fight. That's a really intriguing fight, and obviously Big AJ's got to come through that to keep this fight alive. But we've spoke about it for a bit now, and it was constantly an announcement for an announcement, and then there didn't seem to be any movement. I think the last time we spoke, I always thought August was looking very unlikely. Hopefully we get to see the fight that everyone wants to see later in the year. However, for now, we've got two of the other fights that probably some of the best fights that can be made in Usyk, AJ, Fury, Wilder 3.
I think by the time that the Fury Wilder fight comes around again, the third one, I think you will get more invested in it, because I think that you might start believing Wilder's new story, if you like, because he's going to try and reinvent himself a little bit. Are we going to really see what happened last time again? I think you've got to be honest.
It's hard to believe anything that Deontay Wilder says as of late. With some of the things that he's come out with. However, the work he's doing with new trainer Malik Scott, he looks well.
Yeah.
And one thing about Deontay Wilder, you don't just go from being one of the biggest punchers the heavyweight division has ever seen to, they always say the last thing a fight loses his punch. So obviously, I think it's a dangerous fight for Tyson, as in he's got absolutely nothing to gain, but everything to lose. So, listen, if he goes in there, takes care of business, and then we look forward to that big one later on. But then obviously we've got the problem of Alexander Usyk fighting AJ.
Yep, interesting times. Now, of course, we did hear from Paulie Malignaggi a bit earlier, but that was more to do with Josh Taylor. We want to get Paulie's thoughts on the heavyweight scene and, of course, preview all the action stateside. So here he is with our Josh again.
What are you making of the heavyweight scene at the moment? It looked like we were poised for Fury AJ in Saudi Arabia. We now know that's not happening, and it's going to be Fury Wilder 3 and potentially Usyk versus AJ. What are you making of it all in the heavyweight division?
You know, if I had to not get Fury and AJ, and we had to get some semifinals towards Fury and AJ, it's not so bad. You know, Wilder, I really feel like Wilder's in denial, but at the same time, I love his self-belief. You know, if that makes any sense. I don't necessarily agree with him, but I can't fault a fighter for having the ultra self-belief that he has, because he bordered on the ridiculous with the excuses that he made. But at the same time, by going directly right back at Tyson Fury, it shows that he really, in his heart, believes that something legitimately was wrong, and it's not his fault, and he really feels he can beat this guy. So, as ridiculous and as bordering on the ridiculous, and even if I may disagree with it, what I cannot disagree with is the self-belief of a champion. And Deontay Wilder has that championship self-belief. And I really do feel like, you know, he would go out completely on his shield. He doesn't want to be stopped. I didn't agree with how he treated Mark Breland either after the last fight, but at the same time, he lives it. Deontay doesn't just speak it; he lives it. So you've got to give the guy credit for that, even if I disagree with the way he goes about things. I do think Fury still beats him, though. I think Fury beats him, and I think AJ you'd probably favor over Usyk. Usyk is a little bit undersized, but Usyk is still a crafty guy. You know, Usyk is a crafty guy, Olympic gold medalist, former unified cruiserweight world champion. He's gonna be a crafty, undersized heavyweight who could pose some problems for Joshua as well. So, in the end, if I've got to pick, I probably think we still get Fury AJ. But if they come off wins like this over two quality guys, I think it probably builds up even more anticipation for the Fury AJ fight, as long as it happens within the next 6 months after these couple of fights. You know, we don't want to let it marinate too much. As long as it happens within the 6 months after these next fights, I think you build up more anticipation, and I think people will really look forward to it.
No, definitely. And moving on to this weekend, it's another cracking world title fight. Devin Haney taking on Linares. How do you see this one going on Saturday night, Paulie?
I think Linares is kind of ripe for the taking at this point. He's had a terrific career, multiple-time world champion. Probably not his best weight class at this moment. He's been knocked out by Pablo Cano in a round not that long ago. Pablo Cano was an ex-opponent of mine. He's subtly underrated. Because sometimes he shows up in shape and sometimes he shows up like a mess, but he can punch heavy. And Linares never had a great chin, so that result didn't shock me. But I don't know how he's going to be coming back off of still having had that loss in his last couple of fights. You know, that kind of loss. I think he's there for the taking. I don't think it's a matter of will Haney beat him. I think it's a matter of how does Haney beat him. And I think it's the most recognizable name opponent for Haney. So I think it's a smart fight for Team Haney to take for a young fighter who's ascending, and I think should continue to be ascending for years to come. I expect Haney to win the fight, but with all due respect to Linares, who's had a good career.
Yeah, definitely. And there's another big title bout on Saturday night. Boulet, the French fighter, taking on Donaire. How do you see that one going?
O'Bally and Donaire, I'll tell you, O'Bally has always been some fun fights. He brings a good pace to the fight. He's got some quality wins. I believe he's an Olympic gold medalist as well, if I'm not mistaken. So he's got the standard foundation as well for a championship level fighter, and he's produced it in the pros. Donaire is the never say die guy. You know, he continues to show up even as he's aging. I always thought he was severely underrated. I was in the amateurs with Nonito Donaire. I felt like he actually should have gone to the 2000 Olympics, but he came up short in the Olympic trials in a fight that I felt he won against Brian Valoria in the 2000 Olympic trials. So at 17 years old, he would have become an Olympian had that gone his way, which I felt it should have. Nonetheless, Valoria was a great fighter in his time. You know, Donaire continues to beat the odds even as he starts to age, and he really gave. Just the fact that he gave Nagoya Inoue such a tough fight when nobody else can even last, just on that alone makes him must-watch TV. And it shows that even at his age, he's able to put together a performance like that. We'll see if at his age, after the Inoue fight, if he has anything left. But I think at this weight class, he really can be most dangerous. So I like that he's staying at bantam now. I think it's a great fight for O'Bally. Because this is a fighter that can continue to bring out the best in you. You probably favor O'Bally slightly, But Donaire is one you can never count out for many, many reasons.
I'm saying.
Well, Paulie Malignaggi, he's always engaging, isn't he? He really knows his stuff, there's no doubt about that. Paulie, he's mixed with some fantastic company himself, but he doesn't really give Linares too much of a chance in this. He says Haney wins, it's how he wins. Would you agree with that?
Not totally. I think Paulie, I think he's a brilliant pundit, knows his stuff. Like, not many can be up there with Paulie on that side of things. And he makes some great points. Jorge's had a long career, and it does all depend what Jorge has left. I know he mentioned the defeat to Cano, but I think he just got caught cold, and that's happened before to Jorge. His time and everything for Devin Haney. Listen, I'll never go against Jorge. He's someone who I've always stayed mates with, and he's been out in Japan for this full camp. And I've always thought when he was boxing, his best results come when he was out in Japan an awful lot. No distractions. His feet would be flowing. I think he worked fantastic with Ismail Salas. I'm not sure whether Salas is doing the corner on Saturday night, but I think that does play a big part because I know his brother but they're in Salas' gym now. They've gone over to Vegas, so whether they've just stayed on good terms, I really don't know. But I think we are going to find out on Saturday if Devin Haney is the special talent that everyone thinks he is. I think he's a huge lightweight. I think he's going to go through the weights. I just think it's hard. I've seen some of the odds and people are messing me over. I think just to win, Jorge Linares is 8-1, and he's by far the biggest name Devin Haney has ever been in with. So 8-1 is definitely tempting. But I think we just see on Saturday night, it's going to be more questions of, is Devin Haney this super talent that we think he is?
It's a classic case, though, isn't it, of master and apprentice in a way.
Yes.
Is Haney going to go in there and just finish Jorge, who's had an immense career?
Yeah.
You shared the ring twice with him.
Yeah.
2 great battles in Manchester. And again, what's he like when you're in the ring with a really... you had him, probably, like, so switched on in the second fight.
Certainly the second one was one of, his best performances. And I think, like, Jorge doesn't like getting hit. Not many people do, but I think fighters who don't get hit too often dislike it even more. But when he gets in his flow, his rhythm, he becomes a very difficult man to beat. And his skills, I always said it before I boxed him, he's someone great. He's great to watch. It's almost like poetry, watching him hit the pads, drills he's doing. He's very, very smooth to watch. I think it's just going to be interesting with Haney, like being with someone with the skill set of Jorge. And like I said, that's why it all depends what Jorge has left, because just how much of a threat he can be to Devin Haney.
What was worse for you, though? Was it getting beat in the ring or getting beat at the press conference when he turned up looking far suave with his shades on and he just looked really cool? And you looked at him and you thought, I'm not having this, I'm gutted.
That's it. I've been beat before, and it's never nice losing, but I can take it. But yeah, when I come up to the press in a tracksuit and Jorge come off like ready for a night out, it was hard to take.
Yeah, he looked the business, didn't he?
Always does, mate. He always does. He's a cool cat.
Yeah, and you have stayed in touch, haven't you? Big pals
with him
still, yeah?
Out in Vegas, met him and him at the time for food and stuff like that. So yeah, no, he's a good guy, and I'll be really wanting him to do it Saturday, but he is him with a special talent in Devin Haney.
Yeah, and Paulie was also talking about another fight that's really interesting, just because of the career again. We're talking about Jorge Linares and the career he's had, which is fantastic, but Nonito Donaire, and a bit of an Indian summer for him as well. And again, he's got a great opportunity again at this weekend.
Yeah, listen, everyone thought in Inoue, he knew he was just going to be far too fresh for him. And I know he won the fight, but he was seriously tested. And at one point, it looked like Donaire was going to do it. He landed, and he's a frightening puncher he is. That left hook, I still remember the Fernando Montiel fight, an absolutely huge puncher. But I think, like Paulie said, it was... You can never rule him out sort of with that power. It's not just that, it's a great skill set that he's got. But as for Abali, I just think stylistically, this is a good fight for him. The name of Donaire. I think he's been in with some great fighters already. Beat Rau'shee Warren, US Olympian. Yeah. He's been there before, and I just think he's just going to be a little bit too fresh, a little bit too busy for Donaire, but I might end up looking stupid with that one.
Well, again, because he has pulled it out of the bag, hasn't he, in recent years? I know he's had tough fights, hasn't he? He's coming to the end now, obviously.
So when he boxed Carl, that was a Carl who was right near the very top of his game. He lost to Carl, you thought, right, are his best days behind him? But there he had good nights since. Obviously, the Ryan Burnett fight was a very strange one. Ryan extremely unlucky with what went on. So we don't know, that might have been the end, but he continued. He's had a few good performances since then. We'll see.
Well, yeah, but again, whatever happens, he's been a real credit, hasn't he? A fantastic fella,
brilliant.
great guy.
Listen, it wasn't long back, just before he boxed Rigondeaux, he was right up there in the pound for pound list. You know, in the top 3 in a lot of people's opinion. And like I said, I can't just remember him for that left hook against Fernando Montiel, which was chilling, but he's had a fantastic career.
Now, we do know that Matchroom have announced another night of
Yes.
action. Back in the northeast, Lewis Ritson is back in there as well. There's going to be a packed card. And against Ritson against Ponson, it's a great opportunity for him. You know, he had that Patera night that went all wrong for him at the worst time possible. And I suppose every fighter's been hit by the pandemic as well, and everyone's lost momentum. But a great opportunity for him now to not just get his own career back on track, but to really lift everyone in the northeast.
Definitely, and so we're going to wear the Toonami out for sure. You know, it's a special atmosphere they're creating. I think, is there 1,000 allowed in there or something like that? I'm sure those Geordies are going to make it sound like 10,000. But no, it's great to be back. I actually saw Lewis, my fighter James Moorcroft, he was sparring with him just a week or 2 ago. He's in a great place. And again, Lewis, like, always bring excitement. And I think now he's won that 1 fight away from challenging for world honours. And Joe mentioned it before, it's for the IBF as well, and the forceful with the mandatories. So he wins that. We don't know where that'll lie with Josh Taylor and his plans.
Yeah, and how's things otherwise? I mean, you just had James out last weekend, and you've got in your stable yourself, you've got Jake James who's coming out soon. You've got Rhiannon Dixon who's going to be busy, I think, in a few weeks.
Yes, he
anyway.
is just waiting out now. But yes, she's going to be on one of the big cards in the summer. She's looking fantastic. I've just seen some sparring between her and Natasha Jonas, and it was a joy to watch. The inside fighting was like watching 2 Mexicans. It was brilliant. Alistair Magani, he's in the gym, he's just waiting for himself, and then obviously helping Joe in Bolton. Like I said, Paul Butler, final eliminated for a world title. Jose Burton, final eliminated for a British title. Busy times.
So it's going to be busy now, right up until the middle of August, I think, is it? For
it is,
yourself,
I'm not sure
really?
how, if there's going to be a break or not. I don't know, but yeah, I think for everyone, like right through to mid-August.
Yeah, Fight Zone's back on again this weekend.
This
as well.
week.
Cash Ali, it's the heavyweights.
Yes, the heavyweight. He's out, like I say, there's some local lads on, Zach Miller, adopted Mancunian Irishman, Kieran McVarnett. Yeah. But there's some good fighters, and there's a great show again next week, but I'm sure we'll talk about it then.
Yeah, we will indeed. Also as well, the sneak preview of a feature called Outside the Ropes that we've done for The Sportsman. So this is going to be featured on The Sportsman. There's a written piece also about this now on thesportsman.co.uk. But this is Josh Warrington and his dad, Sean O'Hagan. I had the pleasure
Give them
of
their
spending
own
a bit
TV
of time.
show.
I had the pleasure of spending a bit of time with them at Headingley Stadium, where Josh is hoping to fight next. So if you want a sneak preview of this is Josh and Sean in full flow.
I had to ring him on my way home.
Are you serious?
Yeah, she said, "Odd, Leeds Caravan Centre."
You said that he owes you wages from years ago anyway.
He does. He's forgot though. It's punchy, isn't it? I said, "Odd, do you know that camper?" He went, "Yeah, I'll be ready for you on Monday." I said, "Forget it." Phone down. Job's fucked. He said, "Why, what's up? Don't you like it?" I said, "Job's fucked." He said, "Fucking very filled in." Game over. Second card, I cry, what a curled up on the floor like fetal position. My camper.
Thesportsman.com and now Sean O'Hagan. I mean, Josh didn't even get a word in there, but I mean, that father and son combo, they are just hilarious.
It's brilliant. I'd said, honestly, they deserve their own TV show, and Josh just has to be there just to see his dad up, but his dad's just comedy gold. But I always say he's a fantastic coach as well.
If you didn't pick up on that, that was Sean blaming Josh for not getting his motorhome because he got filled in, as he put it, by Maurizio Lara. So he's not had his dream motorhome because Josh lost the fight, and it meant that he didn't get an extra payday.
And he's not had it sugar-coated as well. Like, why he's not getting it. Yeah.
You can't sugarcoat it. Well, Sean
not
can't.
Sean,
There's no filter, so you just got to let him go.
Josh, I'm sure, knows his dad, so hasn't took it too personal.
But the serious work that gets done in that gym as well, quite clearly. And again, it'll be interesting when Josh comes back. He's so determined to put that wrong right again.
Yeah.
And again, what a bright and what an engaging guy Josh is outside the ring. And, again, he'll get things back on track. He's absolutely sure next time he gets in there.
Great lad, and like I say, we all want to see the rematch with Lara, and we all want to see it with a crowd. And the Leeds crowd, they absolutely love him and create an atmosphere like none other.
Yeah, he wants to fight at Headingley. So wish Josh all the best with that. But this It's the Betfred Boxing Show. We'll see you again next week.